The world thought they could keep India in a corner. They thought by pulling strings, by raising tariffs, by playing their economic games, they could make India bend. But see, the one thing people forget about India is that it never breaks. It bounces back stronger every single time. You can try to block India's path, but you can't stop a country that walks with divine timing. And now something's shifting. Something powerful, something historic. The very tariffs that were meant to slow India down are now standing on the edge of being torn apart by justice itself. See, when those tariffs came down, they weren't just numbers on a trade chart. They were a message. They said, stay in your lane. They said, don't grow too fast. They said, remember who's in charge. But India doesn't take orders anymore. The moment those taxes hit, something ignited in the heart of every Indian business, every worker, every young mind building the future. And that spark turned into a fire that no tariff could contain. Now, the same system that tried to cage India's progress is turning on itself. The Supreme Court is looking at those trade walls, those restrictions, those unfair deals, and realizing something powerful. You can't fight progress forever. You can delay it, sure. You can try to slow it down, but truth has a strange way of breaking through every wall built against it. India didn't cry foul. India didn't beg. It just worked harder. It started manufacturing where it once imported. It began exporting where it once depended. Every factory that opened in Gujarat, every tech startup rising in Bengaluru, every satellite launched from Sriharikota, all of it was India's answer to those tariffs. They said, you tax us, we'll build our own, you block us, we'll make our own way. And now the world's watching in shock because those same tariffs are losing their purpose. The balance of power has shifted. See, you can't play games with a nation that understands patience. India knows the rhythm of time. It has survived empires, colonizers, economic sanctions, wars, and still stands unshaken. When the tariffs came, it didn't fall into panic it planned. It saw the long game. It understood that every restriction was a hidden opportunity. Every tariff became a test, and India passed it with flying colors. Now the Supreme Court is stepping into that story. The world's most powerful court is being forced to face a truth that's been echoing across global markets. Those tariffs were never about fairness. They were about fear. Fear of a rising nation that doesn't play by anyone's script. Fear of a country that manufactures its destiny. Fear of a people who no longer seek validation from the West, but define success on their own terms. What we're seeing now is poetic justice. The same country that once imposed those barriers is now caught in its own web of politics, legal battles, and divided interests. And in the middle of all this, India stands tall, calm, composed, and ready. Because here's the truth. When a nation is led with vision, it doesn't react emotionally. It responds strategically, and India's response has been nothing short of genius. Think about it. When tariffs hit Indian steel and aluminum, the world thought India would crumble. But instead, India doubled down on its production. It invested in local innovation. It built new markets across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. While others were busy arguing in courts, India was signing deals, building infrastructure, and setting up factories that the world's biggest corporations now depend on. And now that the Supreme Court might end those tariffs, it's not India that's desperate, it's the other side. Because India has already adapted. India no longer needs tariff relief to thrive. Ending them won't be a gift, it'll just reveal what the world refused to accept. India has already outgrown those limitations. That's the beauty of strength built under pressure. Diamonds don't shine without heat, and India has been under pressure for decades, turning every ounce of resistance into resilience. These tariffs might have been meant to wound, but they turned into the very reason India transformed. Now, every economist, every journalist, every leader is watching this Supreme Court case not with arrogance, but with anxiety, because they know if those tariffs fall, it'll mark more than just a trade decision. It'll mark a symbolic moment when the old world order finally admits defeat. This isn't just about trade, it's about respect. When those tariffs came, they sent a message, you're not equal. But when they fall, the message will be louder, you've earned your place. And that's what this moment represents, a nation that refused to be underestimated any longer. Look around you, the world's biggest companies are already shifting their bases to India. From Apple to Tesla, everyone's trying to get a piece of the Indian future. Why? Because stability attracts investment. Confidence attracts allies, and India has both. While others bicker, India builds. While others threaten, India innovates. While others impose sanctions, India signs partnerships. That's not luck, that's leadership. This Supreme Court case, whether decided today or months from now, is just a reminder to the world. Power isn't permanent when it's built on control. True power is earned through contribution, consistency, and character. India has all three, and that's why no matter how long this case drags on, the outcome is already written in destiny's book. Let's not forget, every time India was pushed down, it came back stronger. When they said India couldn't make its own chips, it built semiconductor plants. When they said India couldn't handle global manufacturing, it became the production capital for the world's biggest brands. When they said India's IT revolution was just hype, it became the backbone of the global digital economy. Every insult became an inspiration, every tariff became a training ground, every roadblock became a reason to reinvent. Now picture this moment, those court doors opening, the decision announced, and those tariffs falling one by one. The sound won't just echo in the courtroom, it'll echo across continents, because it won't just be about trade relief, it'll be about justice restored. A message will be sent loud and clear, you can't tax ambition, you can't suppress progress, you can't hold back a nation that's already unstoppable. And make no mistake, this isn't the end of the story, it's the start of a new one. Because when the barriers fall, the floodgates of opportunity open. Investors will come rushing in, trade will surge, diplomatic ties will strengthen, and the same nations that once doubted India will now rush to partner with it. That's how destiny flips, quietly but powerfully. You know what's funny? The very politicians who thought tariffs would protect their industries are now realizing they've only helped India become self-reliant. By trying to isolate India, they forced it to innovate. By blocking imports, they sparked a manufacturing revolution. By limiting trade, they made India discover its own strength. That's the ultimate irony. India's growth wasn't asterisk, despite asterisk those tariffs. It was asterisk because of them. Asterisk so now, when this case reaches its conclusion, it won't just be a legal victory, it'll be spiritual. It'll be economic justice delivered after years of patience and persistence. It'll be history saying you can't suppress purpose. Because India's rise isn't random, it's written. See, when a nation carries centuries of faith, culture, and wisdom, you can't stop its momentum. You can't stop the people who wake up every morning not just to make a living, but to make history. That's what the world didn't understand when it tried to corner India. This isn't a country built on fear, it's built on faith. It doesn't crumble under pressure, it creates under pressure, and that's why, even if the Supreme Court delays, even if the decision takes months, India won't lose focus, because it doesn't depend on others anymore. It's already built the foundation, it's already secured its future. Those tariffs were never chains. They were reminders that every empire eventually faces the truth. You can't stop what's meant to rise. And let's be real, this moment isn't just about economy or politics. It's about global respect. The world shifting. Every time India speaks now, people listen. Every time India acts, the world reacts. That's not arrogance, that's evolution. A silent, steady transformation from being a follower to being a leader. The beauty of India's story is that it doesn't shout, it shows. It doesn't demand recognition, it earns it. And when those tariffs vanish, the world will finally have to accept what's been obvious all along. India's time has arrived. No matter how powerful a nation thinks it is, no matter how strong its economy or court, the truth always comes knocking. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission, it walks in. That's what's happening right now. The truth about India's potential, its integrity, its innovation, is too loud to be ignored. And when that truth collides with policy, something beautiful happens. The old system cracks open to make space for the new. This is what global justice looks like. It's not revenge, it's revelation. It's when the world finally sees what it tried to overlook. And whether it's in trade, technology, or diplomacy, India's message is the same. We don't need your approval. We've already earned your respect. Because in the end, every attempt to stop India only made it more disciplined. Every tariff made it more determined. Every challenge made it more courageous. And now the whole world is watching, not in pity, but in awe. Because they see a nation that turned obstacles into opportunities, trials into triumphs, and resistance into resilience. And when the final verdict comes down, when those tariffs are officially gone, the headlines won't just be about policy change. They'll be about power shifting. They'll be about a world that finally acknowledges what it should have years ago, that you can't suppress greatness, no matter how many tariffs you throw at it. India waited patiently. It didn't panic. It built, it grew, it learned. And now the day's coming when the world's courts, the same ones that once justified those tariffs, will declare the truth. And when that happens, it won't be just another ruling, it'll be history correcting itself. Because power, my friend, doesn't just come from money or politics. It comes from perseverance. It comes from faith that outlasts every setback, and right now that power is standing tall in India's corner, apologetic, unstoppable, undeniable. The real victory isn't when tariffs fall, it's when the world admits India never needed them gone to rise. Because let's be honest, India didn't sit around waiting for someone to lift restrictions or cut deals. It didn't beg for fairness, it built its own. It didn't cry about the rules, it rewrote them. That's the difference between nations that depend on approval and those that define destiny. India's rise wasn't permission-based, it was purpose-driven. Those tariffs came down like walls, but India saw them as mirrors, reflections of how much the world feared what it could become. When those trade barriers were announced, the intention was simple: slow down India's speed, weaken its exports, make it play catch-up again. But you can't slow down a nation that runs on determination instead of demand. The whole idea behind those tariffs was to remind India that global power still had gatekeepers, but India didn't just walk through the gates, it built new ones. It didn't wait for the door to open. It created its own path through innovation, resilience, and sheer willpower. That's what people don't understand. India doesn't grow because it's allowed to. It grows because it's destined to. You see, when the world placed tariffs on Indian goods, it thought India would panic. It thought the factories would slow, the markets would tumble, and the confidence would shake. But something else happened. Indian entrepreneurs, manufacturers, and dreamers looked at those numbers and said, "All right then, let's build our own." And from that moment on, India stopped being reactive. It became proactive. Those tariffs didn't stop India's economy. They fueled its independence. While other countries were focused on protectionism, India focused on production. While the world debated trade wars, India prepared for economic wars. Every tariff turned into a lesson in self-sufficiency. Every obstacle pushed India to innovate deeper. The Make in India movement, which started as a vision, became a revolution. Factories didn't just make products, they made pride, because for India it was never just about selling more, it was about standing taller. That's the thing. When you take away someone's easy road, you make them invent their own route, and India did just that. It found new markets, new partnerships, new ways to reach the world. Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, regions that once barely traded with India are now becoming vital allies. That didn't happen because tariffs fell. It happened because India refused to wait. When the door to one market closed, India built 5 more. When the price of steel rose due to tariffs, India invested in new technologies to produce it cheaper and stronger. When the export costs went up, India didn't complain. It created logistics systems to bring them down. Every time someone said, "You can't," India said, "Watch me." That's the quiet power of confidence built over centuries of struggle. India has seen empires come and go. It has watched colonizers take and leave. It has seen wars, sanctions, and crises, and through all of it, one thing has never changed: its ability to rise again. So what's a few tariffs to a nation that has survived far worse and still managed to thrive? The Supreme Court ruling might come and it might favor India, but the truth is India already won. It didn't wait for external validation to grow. It built its economy on grit, not gifts. It understood that real independence isn't about waving flags, it's about building foundations that no one can shake. India learned to rely on itself, to trust its talent, and to lead with faith. That's why the real victory isn't in some courtroom decision. It's in every factory that didn't shut down, every company that didn't quit, every farmer who still exported his crop despite higher costs. That's where India won. The world thought tariffs would crush competition, but what they did was create conviction. Indian industries started investing more in research, technology, and global outreach. The pharmaceutical sector, for example, turned adversity into advancement. When export restrictions hit, India didn't stop it, expanded its